Okay, welcome to the walking bass and chords video. I'm going to cover some of the techniques that I used when I was playing that, and just also some things that you could use to get started here. First of all, I was playing a blues, in case you didn't know, which is a good vehicle to kind of learn how to do some of this stuff, all right? So just some things to consider here before I even start getting into it. The harmonic rhythm of the chords. So what that is how many beats the chords last for, right? So we're in standard 4/4 time, where the quarter note gets one beat, and the chords usually in a blues are either going to have a harmonic rhythm of 4 beats or a harmonic rhythm of 2 beats. Sometimes in certain types of turnarounds they're like 1 beat a piece, you'll find that the shorter the harmonic rhythm, actually the less you kind of have to worry about what you have to do in order to create a walking bass and chord sound. So first off, most of the chords, at least when you're starting out, are going to be 4-beat harmonic rhythm. So some of the things that can get you through 4 beats while still playing, the bass part for the chords would be to concentrate on the root and the fifth. A lot of instruments in the rhythm section actually leave out the roots and fifths sometimes of chords because the bass, right, characteristically will pick that up a lot of times, and this is exactly where that comes into play. So we have root, fifth, root, and what that is, actually if you play them all together, is a power chord. So a lot of people when they first start learning how to play guitar, it's one of the first things that you learn is how to play a power chord. If you play the notes one by one, it's root, fifth, and then root up, that's up the octave there. So I could play through 4 beats just simply by doing that, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could play the first line of the blues, G7 for 4, C7 for 4, and then G7 for 4 and 4 again. So I could go. Okay, so I just got through the first line, just simply going root, fifth, root, fifth, right? Another thing you could do, still concentrating on the root and fifth idea, is to double those up. So you could play, right, so I played with the chords. Okay, just something to get you started. Going from there, you start to play notes that are in the arpeggio of the chord, get the third involved, also notes that would be in the scale that the chord would fit into. In some cases, though, you kind of have to throw in some chromatics because you need to be hitting the chords on the 1 of when they change, or on the strong beat of when they change, or if they're changing every beat, obviously you want to hit the root pretty much on the beats where the chord actually changes. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're going to the 4 chord from the 1 chord. So in this case, in the key of G, we're going from G7 to C7. So if I went up the scale, if I went, okay, like that, I'm getting to C a beat too soon. So we have to throw in some kind of chromatic in order to make the harmonic rhythm still work. So in this case, we could do something like, okay, or if I did it like, let's see, okay, just to stay in position, kind of. Okay, just different ways to do the same thing. But the idea there is I'm kind of thinking, right, I'm playing this mixolydian, which would be the scale that goes with the G7 chord, would be a G mixolydian scale, or mode, right? So I'm thinking those notes, but realizing that if I play those 3 3 notes like that, then I'm going to get to the C too soon. So I had to throw in a chromatic, which leads me to my next thing, is if the chords are, the harmonic rhythm, let's say, is 2 beats apiece, it actually becomes a lot easier to play walking bass and chords, because all you really have to do is chromatically approach your target note from either half step above or 1/2 step below, and it works out great. So let's say I was going to go a little turnaround, like I was going into the 4 chord in measure 5. So I want to play D minor 7 to G7 to C7, right? So if I was going to go to do that, I could go. So all I did is I played D minor. I'm approaching my next chord is G7, so I approach that chromatically. Then again, chromatically from below. So you kind of have 2 options here. I could go, which is the opposite of what I did initially. What I did initially was, right? So I went, and then chromatic from above, and then chromatic from below. Or I could go chromatic from below, and then chromatic from above. You can go the same direction for both, like, but I find that it sounds better to my ears if you do the opposite for each chord, right? So in other words, if I'm doing a chromatic from above leading into that, then the next one I'll go chromatic from below. It's not, nothing is really set in stone, but to me it just kind of sounds better. One of the other things I mentioned was playing like up the arpeggio of the chords. So some of the things you might have heard me do when I was playing like the intro demonstration would be like, right? So that's like the first 2 bars, right? That's root, 3rd, 5th, and then I'm utilizing a chromatic idea approach note to get into C7. That I'm not thinking scale. By the beat before your target chord, a lot of times I'm already thinking a chromatic note leading into that target. Okay. Another turnaround that you heard me play was this. Right. It's 2 beats apiece, but one other thing that I wanted to touch on is to not do what we call the hiccup. So that's where you play the chords of the walking bass chords, and every chord's like, right? So that kind of thing, because it's like a hokey version of reality to me. And I think it's much better to throw that in kind of sparingly throughout. So when you play the chords, you want to play the chord like that. So right, so right, I did it like once right there. Right, so that's what you want to go for. Every once in a while you throw it in. Another thing you might notice I'm doing is I'm using my fingers. You don't have to do that, but I find, especially when playing this style of music, it's very helpful, and also it creates something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of. But when you strum chords like that, you're hitting all the strings at a different time. So the reason it sounds different when I do this, if you listen closely, okay, it's just a little bit of a different sound, like the timbre is a little bit different, okay? And the reason for that is when you play the notes at different times, the overtone series starts at different times, and they're all like kind of crashing into each other all the way throughout, and it just changes the sound. I feel that it's much more of a full sound when you play the notes at the same time. So a lot of these chords I'm kind of only playing 3 notes or 4 notes, but when I play this, right, I'm picking all the notes at the same time using my pick and my fingers. See that last one? I mean, I pretty much did them all, but that's kind of something that you don't have to do, but I feel like it's a lot more stylistic. If you listen to any of the greats do this kind of thing, that's what you're going to hear, is them kind of using their fingers. I mean, a lot of them didn't even really use a pick, but just something to think about. So again, hopefully that helps. Got any questions or comments, leave them. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.